I've truly enjoyed representing our class and making our final year the best one yet. I would like to introduce a beloved teacher and esteemed coach here at QO. He is the head coach of the junior varsity baseball team. He motivates and pushes his players for success, and at times, his players look at him as more of a second father rather than a coach. In addition to coaching, he's also a teacher in the QO art program. He helps to spread his joy of the arts to his students and helps them bring their artistic ideas to life. So, please join me in welcoming Mr. Simko to the podium.
Good afternoon, Quince Orchard graduates. I am extremely flattered, honored, and inspired to be chosen here today. To me, as a teacher, this is one of the highest awards that you could ever receive, because it didn't come from my colleagues, it didn't come from the community and the corporation I work for, it came from you, it came from my students. And you're the people I spend all my time with every day. So, in front of you, I just want to say thank you for that. I also want to take a second to thank my mom, my dad, and my wife for displaying courage throughout my life. In order for me to present this to you in the way that I choose, I did not choose to write down a lot of things to say to you. I wanted this not to be a part of your day, but I wanted to live this day with you, and that's important to me. I wanted to be present, and I wanted to be genuine. So, Dr. Brown spoke a lot about time, and when I thought about what I wanted to say to you, time is very important, and I'm going to piggyback off a couple of things that she said. Often coming back to COVID, we all get caught up in time. And time is the only thing that we have. It's not renewable. We can go out and make more money. We can go out and work harder, recover from an injury. But once time has passed, we can't renew that time with people, places, or things. So to piggyback off a lot of what Dr. Brown said, I want you to pay attention to this, because the first part of this speech is going to be to get you to think. The middle part of this speech is going to be to deliver you a standard. And the third part of this speech is going to be to inspire you in order to allow that standard to be part of your life. So, time. How do we spend it? What does it do for us? What's our life made up of? Our life's not made up of money. Our life's made up of minutes, seconds, hours, and so forth. So when you think about that, if we were to all pull out our phones right now and go to our screen time, and just take a look at where we invest our time, okay? And I use my phone all the time. I do it too. But if we were to break that down and we were to convert time into dollars, and let's say we spend 60 minutes a day on a certain app. It could be Snapchat, it could be Instagram, it could be anything. If we had $1 for every minute, we spend $60 a day for that app. Would we give up 60 minutes of our time for that app? Because one of those things you get back, money. But the other thing that we're giving up in place of our communication amongst one another is the FaceTime where we put it down. And I think that's something we have to bring back into our culture, our community, and as human beings, because we're missing out on who's in front of us, and we don't get that back. Okay? Time versus money is a very serious thing. Some people are driven through time, some people are driven through money, and some people are driven through their desire to be better. Quince Orchard, I've watched you have the desire to be better in the last 4 years. I've watched you deal with adversity better than any other class I've ever been a part of. And this is my 20th year here as a coach and a teacher. The second thing I'd like to cover today is culture. All of you came in as freshmen. Came in as a freshman class. Some of you knew one another, some of you didn't, some of you transferred, some of you were homeschooled. And what you did when you got here is you looked around the same way I did when I came here 20 years ago. When I first heard the QO in the middle of the national anthem, I almost jumped because I didn't know what was going on. And through time, I became part of your culture. The culture was already thriving when I arrived. But what I did was I invested myself in how to make that better and how to become part of that community. Once you create a culture like that, you let it thrive. And once it starts to thrive, you protect it. Our inner interlocking QO behind me is a logo that I was asked to make about 5 to 6 years ago. And when I made that logo and I interlocked those letters, that logo represents how we protect our culture. You created every baseball team, every soccer team, every football team starts fresh at some point, and you take the time to create the culture that you want to be a part of. You include the people in it, you keep it fresh, and you protect it. And when you protect it, and you interlock like that, you create a pulse. And when you create that pulse, you become one heartbeat. You become one heartbeat. The next thing I'd like to bring up is our accountability. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a father, I'm a brother, I'm a husband. All of these things have really delivered for me who I am today. And when I think about coaching and teaching, I thought about a lot of things throughout my career. As a coach, especially a young coach, you're taught win. And sometimes you get clouded with that being the only thing. Well, as I stand in front of you today, 20 years has passed. And if I look back upon my coaching career, there are only a handful of players that might have made it to the minor leagues, maybe 1 or 2 to the major leagues. So at that point I looked at myself and I said, what's more important here? Is it me winning baseball games? Or is it me influencing my players? Because we all love to win. But if a coach only wins baseball games and he doesn't have the ability to influence, then I believe that's a coach that you're going to forget down the road. You're going to remember the wins and maybe not the coach. But as somebody in front of you who loves to inspire and loves to be part of that, when you see a coach who wins through inspiring, I think you remember the whole process. And I think that's one of the most important things I can deliver for you to take away from today. Now, I am biased to baseball. I've played it since I've been 6 years old. And I'm guessing in this community here, in this UMBC audience, there are t-ball coaches, there are Little League coaches, there's Teen League coaches, high school coaches, possibly even some college coaches. I'd be surprised if we have any Major League coaches here. But the one thing about baseball, it's the greatest game in the world because it teaches you life lessons every day you go out there and play. You have to deal with adversity. You have to deal with making adjustments. You have to deal with failure often because as the cliche goes, 1 out of 3 times you get a hit, it gets you in the Hall of Fame at the Major League level. It's a lot of failure. You got a 33% on the test, that's not very good. Okay? So as I'm continuing to kind of carry this, when you start playing baseball in T-ball, the plate, home plate, is 17 inches wide. Then you move to the next level. You move to dad pitch or coach pitch or maybe T-ball or maybe you get a little bit better. They move the distances back. But the plate remains 17 inches. Stand, throw strike, remains 17 inches. Then you get to Teen League and you finally get to the high school program. The field gets even a little bit bigger. And yet, even though we improved the distance, we still kept the plate at 17 inches. And if you're lucky enough, if you're honored enough, and if you are blessed enough to get to the college level, and even surpass that and get to the minor league level, and maybe the professional level, guess what, guys? The plate's still 17 inches. And as parents, as teachers, as a staff, as a community, a lot of times to help you succeed in your adolescence, we widen the plate for you. We make it easier to succeed. And that's the one thing baseball has not done throughout my life. It is not, a pitcher can't throw a strike on 17 inches. They don't make the plate 19 inches. Okay? So what I want to remind you of is you're all about to embark on a very special part of your life. It's adulthood. It's heading into college. It's heading into the job force or the military. And although once in a while it's okay for a parent or a teacher or an administrator to widen the plate for you, to teach you a lesson and give you success, your next round of life may not do that. You cannot pick who your boss is. You cannot pick who your teachers will be. But if you stick to the standard of 17 inches, you're going to be great in this life. You're going to be great. You're not going to be good. You're going to be great. My third story here is about growth and character. And I'm going to try and tie this back all together for you as we complete and finish this up. There's a book I read, and I'll give you the backstory. Coach Gassaway and I went down to the University of Maryland to watch a baseball camp with named Rob Vaughn as the head coach. Very impressed with this coach. He gave his players a reading list of books to read in the offseason. And I took that list and I started reading those books. One of the books was called Chop Wood, Carry Water by Joshua Metcalf. And in this book, Chop Wood, Carry Water talks about lessons that help you stay on your path. Stay at 17 inches, more or less. So, in this book, and some of you might have heard this story, there's a man called Koda. Koda is a Japanese architect that was known throughout all Japan. Built 350 houses in his life. And his houses, and what Koda was known for, is his extreme craftsmanship. He used marble, he used studs, he used the best of his materials that he could find. And Koda walked into his boss's office one day and he said, "You know what, I'm ready to retire." And his boss looked at him and he said, "I'm very honored that you worked here this long. I'll honor your retirement if you just do me one favor. Build me one more of your houses." So Koda reluctantly put his head down and he went on building this house, and he already had plans to spend time with his grandchildren, already had plans to go to the beach, but he put that all down to build this last house. Now, Koda's head was in it, but his heart wasn't. So he finished this house in record time. Cut a few corners, foundation didn't have rebar in it, started to crumble a little bit. Didn't use the best shingles on the house, so they started blowing away after before it was even finished. So he finishes in record time, and he goes into his boss that day, and he says, "May I please now, please have your blessing in retirement?" And the boss said, "Yes, but I have one more thing for you. I want you to go in my top drawer of my desk, and I want you to grab that little black box with the red ribbon." And he goes in his desk and he grabs the little black box with the red ribbon, and it's the key to the house that he just built. I want you to let that absorb for a second. Let's bring this back to time. Let's just bring this back to the 17-inch standard that we're all going to live by. Because that house is now the one that Koda had to live in. And just trying to relate that to you, I think we all take that story and that gut punch at the end where you're like, "Oh, wow, that's powerful." Put yourself in these shoes. You're about to go to college, the military, or the job force. I encourage you, Cougars, to build your foundation strong with the best materials. Surround yourself with the best people. Create your own and best culture and protect it. And don't let anything invade that. Because that proverbial house that I was just talking about is your future. So take the time to build it correctly. It will pay huge dividends for you in the future. And you will thank your older self will thank your younger self for putting in the time to do that. And maybe, just maybe, one day, you're in the position I am today to inspire, to give back to the community that helps you so much, and the community you love and adore. Quince Orchard, class of 22 graduates, respect and love, and Quince Orchard, one heart. Thank you.